Back everybody to Forked.ai, the podcast for better AIers. That's my new tagline, Jack. Worked on that all night. So guys, it's great to see Mr. Dave Moses again and Jack Bevere. Guys, welcome back. It's episode 2. Here we go. Dave, you're wearing the sports coat today, so you get to kick us off with just give us briefly what you want to talk about today and what you're working on, and then we'll move to Jack. And
there's a disincentive for me to wear sport coats in the future.
No.
But anyway,
I want to see you come in a tux on the next one.
Well, that would be awesome. So, I've been working on some pretty cool stuff. I did my homework from last time. I was able to create the replacement for Mile IQ, which was tracking miles for our people. And I think I've got it working pretty cool. So, and it has some other cool things I've been working on. And some people in my office have taken more of an interest in, hey, what if we do this? What if we do that?
So how did you, I'll dig right into it. How did you build that? What'd you use? What's it do? What tools did you plug into?
So I used OpenClaw, and with Opus 4, I actually have a waterfall of models. I have 3 consumer tokens, and it just, when it rate limits or overloads one, it just goes to the next one. And so it can keep going. And so I basically just told what I wanted to build. I already have an EC2 server, so that's kind of where I'm hosting it. I got a free piece of software called TrackCar, TRACCAR, loaded in everybody's phones, had them, set up the server on our side, completely free software.
Does that take care of location services?
Yep. That's what tells me where they're at.
And then how accurate is it?
It really depends on their setting on their phone, but as long as they've got precise locations set up, I mean, it's accurate. I can tell where people are inside my building, like what part of the building they're in.
Can you give us the name of that software again?
It's TrackCar, TRACCAR, and it's a free app, and then you just set up the server. You can have them host it, or you can set up a server yourself. It's I just told my OpenClaw to do it, and it did it. Just set up.
So for those that are new, well, everybody's new to the show. Tell us what the use case is. Tell people again briefly what it is that you do and what this app is meant to do and how it solves a problem for you.
Yeah, so we manage plus or minus 400 single and small multifamily rentals, and we also manage about 4,500 units of condo, HOAs and condo associations. And we have various people out in the field, both our managers and our technicians, and we need to know where they are. We need to optimize routing them. We need to track their time and track their miles. Those who are using personal cars, we can reimburse them. Those who aren't using personal cars, we can track, where those cars are going, how many miles they've got on them, that kind of thing.
And how would you be doing that prior to OpenClaw?
Or what they were doing is they would check into a service ticket, and they check in at the beginning of the day, and they check out at the end of the day in the payroll software. And then over the course of the day, they would check in and check out of individual work orders. And we'd get the time from the work orders. We'd reconcile it against the total time for the day. We'd figure out what applied to a work order, what was just general time, like meetings and whatever, get going and getting the truck fixed, whatever they were doing. And then we would track their miles on a software called Mile IQ, which was $10 a user a month, and it just gave you a nice log. They would go in there and they would swipe left if it was business, swipe right if it was personal, and then it would give us a log at the end of the day or the end of the week, and here's how much they're, and we would just add that to their check to reimburse them if they were using their own personal vehicle, and if they're using a company vehicle, we just have the log for compliance, IRS compliance, and all that was looking fine, except when I went to start to apply those, I wanted to create an automation that would apply those miles and those hours automatically into the payroll software and automatically in QuickBooks, just assigning the cost to the job. And MileIQ has an API, but they don't really have an API. It doesn't really do anything. So there are no endpoints that are useful to me, and you have to integrate it with this other piece of software. And I was just like, no. So I was like, maybe there's another way. And so I found this TrackCar. Actually, I can share my screen if you want to see kind of what it does.
Kyle, are we set up for screen sharing? I love it. Let's do it.
All right, can you guys see? Now you can see a lot of you. So basically, there's 2 things. One, this is like mission control. You guys can see this. So this is basically a custom overlay over a Google Maps. I use the Google API
Is
get
this
the
every
map.
one of your employees that are out on the road right now?
Yeah, so the employees, we only have a few techs, and so you'll see those are folks, right? Those are the techs.
And
All of the non-highlighted houses, those are houses we manage. All of the red ones are houses we manage that have open work orders, and you can see if you click on one, it'll actually, you can click on here, it'll open up the work order for you.
you built this?
Yep, yep. It's
So can you just give us like the what? So you downloaded Track Car. You figured out how to make your endpoints work to track mileage and sort of where people are. But this is way beyond just that, though, Dave. This is, hey, I've got a full interface of like where all of my properties are. Like this is not just a Track Car build here. This was a multi-phased
but I
project.
but I needed to load in order to make it work, I needed to load in all the places that are relevant. It also has all of, like, all these little tiny ones. Any place we've bought supplies in the last 15 months, I had it go and find it, find all the address to GPS coordinates of all those places and add them to the map. So it knows when we're going to pick up supplies. And then you basically come here, you throw in your phone number, and this is it's gated. So it has to be, somebody from our office with one of our phone numbers, and it'll, send you a code. So that way you don't have like anybody and everybody just going and looking at this, right? And then you pop in here, and then these are all the pending days. So I click on one, and you can see this is how many hours they worked that day, how many miles they drove. This was the cost to the company. This is the reimbursement they've got coming to them. I can switch this from personal vehicle to any of the vehicles we own. And it's got, like, you see each drive and each stop got allocated to a job. And it looks like here he drove home for lunch.
Does it know it knows that it's allocated to the job because of the location service?
So I basically, it just gives it a bunch of context. Here are the open work orders. Here are all the places that we manage. Here are all the supply places. Figure out, and here's where they went, right? So then it just figure out, where does it apply? Like, were they going to a place? Were they going to, does this drive make sense? Does this stop make sense for any of the open melds? And if it does, assign it to that meld. If not, like, you'll see he went home for lunch, so it allocated those as non-work. But it actually went through, I added this yesterday, and it basically said, well, he went home for lunch, but he would have gotten the miles and the time to go from one job to the next if he hadn't gone home. So it estimates that, just creates a drive for him. So he, recaptures that 3 miles and that 5 minutes, meaningful to him, probably not so much to us, but, and then, these are our
So
divisions. So it allows us to, like, change what we allocate it to. We can override the miles and give them more or less. And then we just click submit here at the bottom. And once you click submit approval, it goes into the goes into our payroll system. And then it goes into, when we enter payroll, then that goes into QuickBooks.
that's fantastic.
That's that.
Jack, what are you thinking?
Dude, so you had to connect. So you have it connected to Property Meld and AppFolio, right? To give it the context to
No, I
identify
only
the open
connected
work
it
orders.
to Mongo. Yeah, I connected. I don't have it connecting directly to the APIs. I have the API, all the data in the APIs, all the data in PropertyWare, Property Meld, all the data in AppFolio. That's all data in QuickBooks. All comes into a Mongo database, like once a minute, depending on what it allows. So it's all in Mongo, and it just grabs it from, because it's lighter, it's faster, and it doesn't, when there's an agent involved, I don't want it to be able to go back and write something incorrectly. So yeah,
you basically have a heartbeat that pulls in data from multiple sources, like a cron. We'll get into what AI has been costing Craig Fuhr and Jack Bavir over the past couple of weeks in a minute. However, what I'd love to know is, how are you keeping your token costs down if you're pulling, because it's pulling a lot of data to update that app. How are you keeping your token costs down?
So actually, it's a really, really minuscule amount of money. I mean, it's costing me pennies a day to run that. It's not a lot of context that goes in. It might be 10,000 tokens that goes in, and it's like,
because it's sort of
maybe 1,000
updating
tokens out.
Mongo with new information, not pulling everything.
The update to Mongo is not agentic. From AppFolio and property meld, that's not agentic. That's just it's a simple API call, pull in the
Got
data,
it.
dump it into Mongo.
Okay.
Really, the agentic part is just here's all the addresses with open work orders. Here's the open work orders, and here's the drives. Here's all the GPS points that they hit throughout the day. Figure it out, and then right now I'm using I think Chat 5.4 to do that reasoning.
Yeah.
I could probably switch that to Grok. I think I'd probably get just as good of a result for half the price. So
So
yeah,
interesting use case. I love that. So the map is insane. I was thinking of different use cases for location services the other day for me, and it was more of a. So I love the idea of my bot knowing where I am to keep my shit right. Like meaning, hey, you said you wanted to go to the gym 3 times a week, and I know where the gym's located, but
where
you're
you're at.
not there, and it can call me and go, "Hey, it's 6 a.m. Wake up because your phone is in your house right now, not at the gym." Fun use case. And the reason why I bring it up is because I think for the creative curious person, they look at what you did, Dave, as an insane business enterprise use case, which is beautiful. But it's like, hey, how do I start with this? How do I take these concepts that these guys are talking about and sort of make something a little bit more simple and useful? And like yours is an amazing case. Mine could be built in about 30 seconds. So that's awesome, man. So where is that, like Rev 1 for you? Are you still working on making it better? Like how would you make that whole app better, Dave, right now if you had to like sort of go add some more features to it?
So
Just curious.
my vision for that is to have an agent doing dispatch, an agent doing, so basically the agent knows where everyone is and it knows when someone calls in a work order and it says, hey, you're 5 minutes away. Let's text the next work order and tell them, hey, we're going to be half hour late or an hour late. This guy's going to go and fix whatever is going to be fixed. And boom, now I don't have to have somebody going 30 minutes this way, 30 minutes back.
I love when Jack leans back in his chair and gives the old.
That's the idea. I
That's
think
that's Jack Beer going. That's a good one. That's a good one there.
I mean, it's all right. It's all about efficiency. It's getting to people, quickly and prioritizing it. If that person that we're going to delay has got like an active leak, or we're not going to delay that.
Is the supposition though that like all of your people, they all have different skills? I would assume that like, all the handymen have sort of similar skills, or whoever's going out to the projects. And so do you rank them by skills and then sort of like how fast they work, or do you just like, hey, that guy's closer, he's the better guy right now because he's closer?
I mean, great. I mean, those are great questions, and I think I'll never be able to do that, but the AI will. It'll be able to
Yeah.
look through. These are all the work orders that this guy has done. Here's the ones he got 5 stars on, 4 stars on. Here are the ones he got 1 star on. So it's not going to send him to go do something that he sucks at. We have the data. We've been collecting, reviews from tenants for a long time. We have the detailed notes of, the issue and the fix for all these work orders for, going back years. So it shouldn't be difficult to do. It's just, dig through it, figure out what their skill set really is. And does this make sense? And sometimes it's just, hey, you're a warm body. We want to show this, important, customer that we're on top of things. So just go there and be a warm body. You're not going to fix this, but you'll put some eyes on it. Give us some meaningful data. And when we do get out there, maybe we save some time fixing it, but it could just be that, right? But the other thing is just upskilling them. It's like if we just say to them, look, we got a lot of this stuff going on and you're missing out on work orders. They're incentivized to do more work orders. They're incentivized to do, to get things, to do more things when they go to one work order. So it's like, hey, this, smoke detector is beeping. So I don't have to come out here again to do that. Let's just swap out the battery while we're here, that kind of thing. So it's really, I'm a really big believer in figure out a workflow, figure out what you want it to do, and get it to the point where all you're tweaking is the context and the prompt. So what am I, what fuel am I giving the AI to make a decision? And what instructions am I giving it to make that decision? And if you can just tweak those two things, even if it's not going to get it right now, the model may be smart enough in 3 months where it will.
Because you've laid a great foundation for it with the workflow, gave it the right tools, stood up like a Rev 1, and now you can just tweak. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And you get feedback. The other thing is, how are they getting the recursive self-improvement, right? It's how are you giving feedback after the agent's made a decision? If that's just me as the programmer doing it, then I've failed. But if I have a way where the users of that workflow can give meaningful feedback, and that there's another workflow that analyzes that feedback against the existing production flow and says, hey, if you tweak this prompt in this way, or if we go and grab this data from here, it'll make this better. And so they may be bug fixes, it might be feature requests, whatever it is that the ultimate users have. It allows the system to suggest its own improvements and eventually just improve itself.
Okay, so
Go ahead, Jack.
I want to rewind like a lot. How did you connect? And forgive me if we talked about this in a previous episode. Maybe I just need to hear things a couple times. But how did you connect your various systems to Mongo? Like literally, am I like super overthinking this thing and I just need to log into Mongo, create an account, and then point it to my AppFolio API and just tell it to ingest everything, and then I just start querying the Mongo, and then I get the Mongo API and give that to my OpenClaw, and I can start querying the Mongo database? Like it's all just in there and organized enough because it's labeled that it is searchable? Or do I have to like do something to turn my AppFolio API into a database into something useful?
Yeah. So can I? So
Yeah, go.
So Mongo is basically a database, correct? I've not used it. I use Supabase. And the question I would add to that is, do you have to set up the schema in Mongo, or can it just take the API and figure out what schema would be set up in Mongo for you to query?
Yeah. So, as a caveat, there are probably better ways of setting up the schema than even the way the APIs have it, the way the actual software companies set up their APIs. But I don't really account for that. What I do is I want it mirrored. I want it exactly in the same schema setup that
It's
the
interesting.
existing, API has. For you, Jack, the answer to your question is just, because Jack uses AppFolio and David uses AppFolio, it's really just, David, send me the workflow that pulls all this into Mongo, and then you can just put it on your N8N and use it. All you'll have to do is set up a Mongo account, and it will literally create all of the collections for you when the first time it writes to a collection, right? If it created a collection for tenants, right, as the endpoint, then the first time it does it, it's going to automatically create that collection. It doesn't exist, so Mongo, when you just inherently, when you write to Mongo to a collection that doesn't exist, it creates the collection. So that's really all you'll do. It's a very simple looking flow, to be honest. It's really just a code node that has a list of a bunch of endpoints, right? And then a HTTP node that it will loop through each one of those endpoints, grab everything, all the records that have updated in a recent amount of time, right? Whatever cadence you have it on, and then writes whatever that data is to the Mongo database. The step 2 is adding the webhooks, because AppFolio has webhooks. So just have the thing trigger for that endpoint whenever something changes, whenever a record changes in that endpoint. And then the final one is to create a separate collection that tracks changes. Okay, so if this record got mirrored into the system, if it's different than it was before, track that change. Here's the field that changed. Here was the value before. Here's the value now. And if you can do all those things, then you really have a good sense that opens up a world of information.
I feel like that's like what you're describing right there is like a crucial skill, right? Like, and it can be applied to any database, but I just want to make sure that, like, I don't know, that I get it right in my brain. And also I think it's like one of those like stupid little logistical things that like is a humongous
So
unlock.
important.
So like, it's not like there's a single API endpoint that you can connect a database to in AppFolio. You have to identify the architecture of endpoints that
There's like
exist.
130 of them.
Okay. And okay, so right, so like you have to ping all of them individually. Like each of those endpoints is the key to getting data out. So you have to create an N8N flow that goes to each of those endpoints and then triggers a flow to pull the data into Mongo, and then monitor for I'm going to screw up the language here. I'm going to screw up the vocabulary here. And then separately, it's a webhook that you have to monitor, or you just set up a flow that each of the webhooks in I'm screwing this all up. In AppFolio, like trigger, then that pushes data through those endpoints. Clean that up. Clean that up for me.
Yeah. So
There is
essentially,
nothing more fun than watching Jack Bevere learn on the fly.
no,
It's
no.
the best.
I mean, it's essentially what you said, right? Unfortunately, with AppFolio, and this isn't the case with all software, but AppFolio literally has all of their webhooks going to the same, URL. You give it a URL. Every webhook that fires, it's going to give you the information for what endpoint changed and the record that changed when it fires. But it's essentially going to just send everything to the same one. So you have one workflow and a giant switch, or you don't have to have a switch once you get to the point where you don't need one. But basically, it just says, oh, this is the endpoint. Okay, so I'm going to this leg of the flow, right? What you'll probably, if you set up the original flow correctly, which I didn't the first time because I didn't know how to do it, but the second time I did, I got it right. It'll just fire the webhook. It'll say, because this is the endpoint that changed, that had a change in it, this is the endpoint that I'm going to use in my call. And you had to know how to do this stuff even probably 6 months ago. But Opus 4.6 is smart enough where you can literally give it access to the API documents and it will build this workflow for you.
Just
So
tell
that-
it what you want it to do.
Yeah.
So let me give you,
right?
Dave, let me give you a crazy use case that I think is really great here at Dominion. Jack. So we take calls all day long. Phone rings off the hook because our marketing department is insane. And we get calls on multiple different voice over IP numbers through a program called CallRail.
CallRail?
CallRail.
Yep.
Currently. We're looking at other options, I believe. So in any event, CallRail does have an API, and I'm not really the kind of guy that's going to go in there and look at every single endpoint on an API. I just said, and so I built this app called RecMe. And basically, what I want is I want to take a call from a customer, have that call transcribed, summarized, and any key points that were in the call: name, email address, phone number, FICO, experience, state that they're in, stuff like that. It should automatically see that, put it into like a nice report for me. And because I'm not yet connected to our CRM, which is Salesforce, I would just then copy and paste that into the customer notes for the lead, right? And so what's the reason for that? Well, the reason is now I can have like my own sort of dashboard that shows me all of the calls I took on Monday and the ones that were important and the ones that I needed to get back to and the follow-ups that I had from them. And it's brilliant. It's working wonderfully. But to my point, the CallRail API is just okay. And I didn't really, and I don't know what all the endpoints are. So I was in yesterday and I was like, hey, we've got this great app. It's like 98% there. It works, but it doesn't work great. And I was like, here's the API docs. Here's all the OpenClaw docs. Here's here's my entire OpenClaw workflow. Make it better. And so it's actually working on that as we speak. But to your point, Dave, I think you don't need to I'm surprised to hear people still talking about NA. I believe in it. I think it's an interesting way to do, to graph out your workflow. But for me, it was too kludgy and too geeky and too, I'm not a tinkerer like that. And so I just give it all to OpenClaw. I just give it all to Cloud Code and I'm just like, figure it all out. And it does perfectly.
What's it
To
doing?
Jack's question,
What's its replacement for?
pardon?
What is the OpenClaw version of N8N? Bunch of Python scripts?
Yeah. A bunch of markdowns and a bunch of Python scripts.
So to your point though, Dave. So let's say the API that you were pulling from AppFolio.
Yes.
Was that it? So I think you said it had over 100 endpoints that it can query, correct? And so let's suppose that I love the idea of just saying, yeah, pull them all into the database now, and then we'll figure out later which ones that we want to generate reports on. Correct? That's a much better way of doing it rather than saying I just want this, and this. Just pull it all in.
Just pull it all. Yeah, it's not. I mean, storage is cheap. What I would say, the two counterpoints to not using a software like NANet are there's really just two that I can think of. Number one, it silos your credentials, so your credentials aren't living somewhere in OpenClaw that anybody who could hack it could figure out a way to get into. N8N gates those. Even the workflow, even the agent in the workflow can't see the credential.
What about if you use like a 1Password CLI and just have a vault then for your OpenClaw?
That would also work. Yeah, for sure. And the other reason to use N8N or something like it is to visualize the workflow
Yeah.
on an execution. So you can actually it gives you that step by step, this is what fires. You can click and look at the data that went in. For non-geeks, like people who aren't like us, like that probably isn't important. Most business owners or people who work in businesses are trying to make them better. They probably don't care. As long as it works, it works. And I'm actually at the point now where I don't even look at the Mongo collections. I just say, just organize this data. The AI will just organize it, set up the collections how you think they should be set up, organize them so that some future agent can look through the collections and intuitively understand where this information probably lives, find it, and use it. And so I'm not even paying that much attention to how it's organizing the data that's not just a mirror from. All I really care about is like, it's got a mirror from the API the way it is. It's also a cool backup, because things change. People do things and they screw things up. And none of these APIs do a really good job of audit logging. Now I can create my own audit log and I can see, well, yeah, you changed this record from this to this on this date. You're the user that did it. And, this is why I'm creating an agentic workflow that replaces you so you don't have to make that mistake anymore. So, which is, that's where you want. You want to be able to track where are people making mistakes? Where are they wasting their time? And you build workflows ideally around the things that cost your business money. If it's costing a lot of time, costing a lot of money, or there's a lot of error that happens in that particular process, that's where you want to target. Okay, this is where an automation should happen. And I'm thinking about it from that standpoint. Probably the entrepreneur in me would criticize myself and say, I should probably spend a lot more time working on how I can get more business, how I can grow, but that's
I like
it.
I would take the contrarian point on that like, hey, look, if you believe, like, say, if you're making loans to real estate investors and that AI is going to exponentiate the amount of business that we could take in, then you better make your people and your processes way more efficient to handle that flow. And I think that there's a part of me that like stays up till 4 a.m. talking to my bot, building stuff, and I'm like, this is stupid. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, go to bed. But there's also there's a part of me that says, no, wait a minute. You better learn these tools, man, because when Jack like ramps up production, you better be ready to handle it in a way that like nothing falls through the cracks. And I think that's kind of what I'm focused on. Jack, can we transition? Jack
Wait, I have one
purchased
more question for Dave. I have to. I
question.
only get an hour with Dave a week, so I have to get
You
as
could
much out of
call.
this selfishly
My phone rings.
for me.
Like I tell people, it's only one way. Like if I don't call you back, don't get mad at me because my phone really only does work one way. But call me.
So what's how are you doing, or are you turning this into QuickBook or into journal entries? Like, are you bookkeeping that? Are you still bookkeeping, or like have you taken it to the accounting side of things yet?
We are current, like all of my team, they do bookkeeping. If I have to do a journal entry, if it's gotten to the point like I sold a property, I do those. I want to see it. So there are certain things where I'll do the entry. And when it's that or I bought something, so I'm the one that has to, tell somebody what it is. So instead of telling them what it is, I have an agent where I'll say, here's what I bought, go journal it or go add it as an expense into QuickBooks. And it will just do it. And it knows
You have that set up, and it'll just do it.
It'll just do it. Yep. I just tell it to do it. I can even I can literally take a picture of a receipt at a restaurant, and if I write which division it's for at the top, it will just, hey, do you want to enter this in the QuickBooks? Yeah, go ahead and enter it. Boom. It just
And all of
enters.
this is running through OpenClaw.
That's running through OpenClaw. Yeah.
That's running through
So
OpenClaw.
you take a picture on your phone of a receipt. You write a couple notes on it, and you feed that into Telegram, I'm assuming, or Discord, or however it is that you talk to your bot.
How do you do it?
And
How do you
then,
do it?
yeah, how do you do it?
Both. I do Telegram when it's not something I'm going to do a lot of, like when it's not repetitive. When I'm working on anything that's a longer term project, I'll use Discord because I can actually separate. I can actually allocate literally the token cost by the workflow. And I'll show you that very geeky mission control that literally tells me this is how much this particular build cost in tokens. But it also silos it for memory. That's really the most
I am
important
so
thing.
not sleeping tonight.
That's such a good idea.
It's very cool. I'll show it to you. But the purpose wasn't to do that. I just thought, oh, this is cool. It can do that, so why not? But
So
the
how
real
many Discord channels do you have set up? Curious.
probably about Well, I'm not the only one. There's like 3 of us working in them, so it's probably 25. It's probably like 10 or 12 channels, and it's probably like 25 to 30 threads. Because in each channel, you can have a bunch of threads, and you can actually you can cost these things down to the thread in terms of how much time. But again, the idea with using
Jack, I just
Discord
got giddy. I just had chills.
but like I can't stress this enough. The whole purpose, the most important, if you jump into OpenClaw, you'll find that the most frustrating part of OpenClaw is that it uses compaction just like any LLMs. That means like as you talk to it in a particular conversation, it's going to forget what you were talking about. So if you silo those threads, now you can just say, go back through the thread, get yourself up to speed, and it's not reading a bunch of nonsense about where you should have dinner on Thursday. It's only looking through the context that's relevant to that thread so it can get itself back up to speed very quickly. So it's really memory. It's really more for memory than it is for cost allocate. The cost allocation was just kind of cool.
Can you set it up? A stupid question. Can you set it up to speak only to a particular sub agent or skill? Like, so I've got a UI skill, right?
Mhm.
And I want to take part of some project that I'm working on, and I say, "Hey, UI skill, go take a look at Forked AI news, and use all your skills to make it better." Can you do that, or are you always still talking to your main agent, and the main agent is the orchestrator to handle the rest?
So I've tried to do it the first way, and I'm sure it can be done. I failed. So the way I would say the way I do it is I only talk to one agent. He's in a bunch of different threads. In terms of I have more than one agent I talk to, but in terms of building workflows, I only talk to one agent, and each of my other 2 people who build, they have their own agent. But then I ask them always, and this has worked out way better. I don't let them build anything. I make sure they understand they're just the orchestrator. They are to spawn an agent or 2 or 3, depending on what they're building. And those agents are to do the work. And you, as the orchestrator, are just to make sure they keep going. Make sure they keep doing what they're supposed to do and deliver a product. And when they say they're done, don't trust them, test it, and tell them that they're not finished yet if they're not finished. And I found that kind of hierarchy where I don't speak directly to the agents actually doing the work, I'm speaking to the orchestrator agent, works better, especially because Claude gets overloaded. Codex, I run out of, it'll just API limit you when you get to a certain point. So you need, when those things happen, the flows tend to stop. Like I can't go any further. And then if you don't have a cron job set up for him to continue to check on it or check himself on it, then it winds up, the whole thing just, you'll wake up the next morning and he'll have
Yeah,
stopped at 10 p.m. and nothing will have happened. But if you
been
have the
there.
orchestrator agent continually checking in on them and the orchestrator agent is on a different token or on a different, you have them using API tokens, now that he can keep them going. And he'll literally tell me they got overloaded at 2 a.m. I waited 30 minutes for a cooldown and then I had him resume. And he'll tell me that that's what happened.
Yeah, let's move on. A couple of things here. So staying on topic. I think when people fire up OpenClaw for the first time and you just start playing with it's very powerful right out of the box. I think when you you hook up some LLM to it, for a lot of people it'll probably be Claude or Anthropic. You could really hook it up to anything, but you'll get to a point where, and you guys chime in here, you get to a point where you're just working on a lot of stuff, a lot of ideas. You got projects that are half built, some that are not, some that are real close to the finish line, and you're human, so you kind of forget what it is that you're working on at times. But more importantly, the token costs, if you're just banging on this thing, everything Anthropic, is very, very expensive. You cannot have a $20 a month plan and expect to do any significant agentic work that might, be overnight while you're sleeping. I thought that I had a really beautiful organization, Dave, where I had my main bot, Rocky, and then I had all of these bots underneath that specialized in certain things. And when I told Rocky to do something, he was supposed to tell the other guys that are now working on a much less expensive token. In this case, it was I'm using Minimax and Kimi K2. Kimi
2.5.
K2, yeah, both of those. And so, you're talking exponentially less expensive than an Anthropic token, right? Um, I get a call. I was on a way to a doctor's appointment. Phone rings. It's Jack Bevere. I always pick up when it's Jack. And he said, "Hey man, hey, we're cutting you off." And I was like, from Dominion? Or like, do I still have a job? So he's like, no, man, you're on track to spend $10,000 this month in tokens. You've already spent over $4,000 just in the last few days. I damn near had to pull the car over. I mean, like, I know there's a lot of people who work for someone and they're like, oh, yeah, I'll just I'll just bang on that guy's shit all day long. And like, I was shocked. I mean, literally shocked. Went home that night and tore it all apart. I mean, broke my bot so bad, Dave, it would do nothing because I'm like, this is untenable. Like, I felt horrible. And so what I discovered is that orchestration feature that everybody talks about, that's really kind of the holy grail of like this whole technology, right? How do I get multiple digital employees doing my work, but at the least cost, right? Like, I want to talk to my smart guy, Rocky. I want to talk to him in Opus because he's smart, and Opus has great attitude when it comes. The persona effect of Opus is so much better, I think, than like any of the other tools. It just gives you back like this, the responses that you're looking for. That said, it was not orchestrating, and I really had to dig deep with OpenClaw docs, and not that deep. I just basically had to go back to it and say, hey, here's all the OpenClaw docs. Here's where you totally effed up. You are now building yourself as the orchestrator. You're smart, but you're orchestrating. You're delegating everything. And here's all of this. And I had to rebuild all of my skills so that they were sort of like, by the way, if anybody is building a skill, if you're not using the Claude creator skill, the Claude skill creator skill, it's awesome. And so you just tell it like, hey, I've got this skill. It is my copywriter, let's say. And it's copywriting for LinkedIn. And so it knows the LinkedIn algorithm. It knows the hooks and all that stuff. And if I say I'm going to write something for LinkedIn, it goes to the copywriter. It has drastically changed, I think, my token count, because now they're all auditing themselves for tokens as well. And I get a report. And so it's working really well. So for folks that are trying to set up multiple agents under sort of like you're making a digital organization, a digital business structure. You really have to be careful because you'll limit out very quickly on tokens, and you'll wake up one morning with a bill from Anthropic that you were not expecting. So just be very careful when you're doing that. Dave, Jack, you guys can jump in anywhere.
That's spot on. That's spot on.
Yeah. So like, how do you guys have like, I've heard, so again, I'm like the like super detailed, like exactly how do you do what you just said there? Like, cause it feels like it goes over my head. Like, all right, like I get the concept of like, hey, I'm going to sub out to a bunch of other models, lesser tasks can use lesser models. Fine. Get that. But how do you set that architecture up? Like you literally say like, hey, I want you to download a suite, or I want you to get access to a suite of other models, and like, let me know when you need me to put the credit card into the Kimi website and the whatever website, like, and then get those API tokens, and then you're good. Like, is that exactly what you do? Like, how do you get all these other models in the mix?
Dave, so
mechanically.
Dave, I'd love your input on this. So here's what I did. I've ever since I started working with OpenClaw, I just talked to it through Telegram, and I've made a lot of stuff. So it's obviously working. I mean, I've made a lot of interesting projects with it. That said, it was not doing what it was flat out lying to me is what it was doing. And so, Dave, I don't like using Telegram as my IDE. I'd much rather be working in Cursor and just give it full access to my OpenClaw workspace and say, hey, let's use Codex to build out the following. Help me take a look at the entire workspace. So I basically opened up Codex, the app, on my desktop. I gave it access to, it's like Claude Cowork, right? Where you could just basically give it a folder to work in. And I said, take a look at this folder and tell me everything that's wrong with it. And man, did it ever. It was like, oh yeah, this is not working the way it basically confirmed everything that I thought. And then I said, okay, now do a full audit of all of the skills that I've already built, the ones that are active, the ones that are not. Tell me which LLMs that they're working with, and tell me if Rocky's actually using them or not. Nope, he's not. And so then I said, okay, here's all the OpenClaw docs. Here's all of my APIs in 1Password. There's a session token that can only use this vault, which is all of my APIs. And take what you know and make Rocky an orchestrator. And it did. And so I don't know that I love, because when you're working in Codex, it's local, right? I can't do that from my phone. So you have to kind of screen share, which is really kludgy. I need to, Dave, I need to have a way where I can work on my Mac Mini that's here at Dominion running OpenClaw without having to like screen share into it, which I do with using Tailscale.
Yeah, Tailscale.
It's
Yeah, that's what I
fine.
do too.
It's fine. It works, but like I'd much rather have something more seamless. Anyway, so that's what I did. I basically gave the entire directory plus all the docs to Codex, and I said, let's start working on one PRD at a time. Like, let's work on the skills. Let's work on each skill. Let's work on Rocky. And and then, basically said, every sub agent skill now is just going to use Minimax. Minimax 2.7 is really it's pretty sharp, and it
You just
appears to
told
be
it in
working.
your instructions. You just told it in your instructions you wanted to optimize for cost efficiency.
Exactly.
So
And then it has a fallback. Like, so let's say Minimax gets API'd out. Like I banged on it too hard. It'll go to Kimmy K at that point. Go ahead, Dave.
So I first of all, I love that idea. I have not done that, and it sounds really useful.
Oh, let me give you one last thing. So in Codex, which by the way, I was doing them side by side. I would do the same thing in Claude Code, and then I gave Claude Code the same thing. I gave it the whole access to my workflow, and then I said, build me a PRD in a 4-phase approach with all of the tasks, and tell Rocky that to delegate, and his report back to you has to show that the phase was complete. Everything was recorded in Obsidian, Supabase backup. And so he comes back with a response. I put that into Codex or Claude Code, on the desktop. So I basically copy and paste that over. And then it says, that was a pass. Let's move on to phase 2. Or, hey, that was not a pass. Here's what he needs to change. Give that back to Rocky. He goes out, finishes it, and then we move on. So everything is tested and validated through Codex to go back to Rocky. And it's been
That's really
really great.
I have to listen to this podcast on like
I'm
point
gonna be
8.
doing that. Yeah, I'm gonna be doing that. I'll be like, wait, say that again.
What
Yeah.
is it? But like you've done far more, I think, far more difficult things with your bot. Like, what is it that you don't get? Open up freaking Cowork, point Cowork or Codex to your OpenClaw folder, and then just give it all the context that it needs. It writes the PRD for you and everything. Then
What's a
I don't
PRD?
even a product requirement document. So basically, it's like, hey, this is a specification that here's what we're working on. Here's the specification. Here's like, take a screenshot of where we are now. And the mission for me is this is what the end product looks like, right? This is our end goal. Now, I don't want to do that in one shot. I wanted to do it in a 3-phased approach, or for, as many phases as you need to get to that freaking bottom line mission, right? And at each interval, I need you to test Rocky to make sure that he did exactly what he was supposed to do. And dude, it has been insane. Like, I watch him spawning up agents on the fly. And then I ask it, well, like, we have agents, we have skills. Like, why aren't you using those? Well, it's just easier to So I don't have it working perfectly yet, because I figured, like, why take all the time to build these skills out if it's just going to spawn up its own, which I find sort of interesting. But yeah, it's been a real unlock for me, Dave, to like just give the whole folder to Codex and then just have it write up like this beautiful, unbelievable PRD with like tasks that are well defined. And then to be able to validate and test with Rocky, because he brings back this perfect report to say whether no that, and it gets it every time. He didn't get it right. No, there's 2 other things
That
that you have.
idea is going to save me an hour a day. Just basically making
Well,
it like, here's a markdown file that is your North Star for this thing that you're building. So whenever
right.
you get stuck, good, whenever you think you're done, whenever you think you've reached a certain step, go back, look at this document, and see if you're on the right track. I mean, that's going
But
to save me a lot of time.
don't you? But what I find kludgy is I'm working in Codex, which is not inside of my. You could ease. I don't know why I need to do that. I could have Codex working inside of OpenClaw. I don't know that it's so efficient, and then have my conversations with Codex rather than having to go outside in the Codex app, do all of this, and then copy and paste it into Rocky. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make, and maybe I wouldn't do it in Codex or Claude Code, but I would still have that hierarchy where you have, an agent. I have one agent that exists on an API token from Anthropic. If everybody else goes down, this is go in and revive them. But I could see the idea of one agent that is, that runs on Opus 4.6 that just makes sure that, your Rocky Mines Auto and Forge. Forge builds things and Auto is like my personal, but I can see that main agent that's just, keep everybody in the same, keep everybody heading in the right direction, rowing in the right
What's so
direction.
funny, Jack? What do you think of Jack?
I'm laughing on the inside, and maybe it's coming out because we're like, dude, we are zoomed out like so freaking abstract. Like we're like, and I'm like, you know what I did in the past 2 weeks? I built a web scraper. I'm pretty excited about it. It's like pretty cool. And you guys are talking about you guys training the architecture behind your bot to make it more efficient. Like you're just like zoomed out like 3 levels up. I'm just
Well,
like,
when
can
you
I
get a
scrape
call
some
from the
stuff
owner
off
of
the
the
internet?
company, when you get
And-
a call from the owner of the company telling him you've spent like $4,000 in the last 10 days, you probably got to go back to the drawing board at some point, figure out a better mousetrap if you're gonna,
Well,
use
I
these
think it's
just
great.
just a
We're just
suggestion.
figuring this shit out,
Kimi K 2.5 and Minimax 2.5, not 2.7, but 2.5. They're both open weight models. And Minimax, I would wager, I don't know what kind of, do you have a Mac Studio? Okay. So Jack, if the underwriter of said tokens were to consider the
Mhm.
cost benefit of obtaining, a couple of Mac Studios or one Mac Studio at about 512 gigabytes, those machines can share RAM, and you could actually run Kimi K 2.5 and Minimax locally for free for as long as.
So speaking of which, I got all riled up last weekend, and I went to and I was down all kinds of rabbit holes, and I got all fired up, and so I went to Micro Center up in Parkville, Maryland, where they
We know
had
Micro Center too.
Wait, you
where
didn't
they
call
have
me? You're up.
yeah, I was
I
right up
like
your way,
Micro Center. Come on,
and
let's go. Here we
where
go.
they had 21 NVIDIA GTX Sparks in stock, and I bought 2 because it was limit 2 per household, and so I have 2 Sparks sitting here that I'm like, I could be running local models on this shit, and then I'm looking at my token usage and everybody's token usage, and I'm just like, maybe we should be running. Maybe this was actually an excellent investment. I should be doing this. So yeah, I'm down that path. Yeah.
Yeah, the reason I would suggest Mac Studios is because they can share memory. So the next model comes out and it's a trillion parameters, whatever it is, and you just need more horsepower. You just add a Mac Studio, and now they're all sharing a gig and a half or a terabyte and a half of memory instead of a terabyte of memory. So it's scalable, I think, in a way that really everything in the PC architecture just isn't.
So Jack, you inspired a company to be interested in AI, and the company has built a lot of amazing tools that I can't wait for people to see. But you personally went out and got yourself a little Mac Mini. Was it a Mac Mini you got?
Yeah.
What'd you
Yeah, I
get?
got a Mac Mini.
Got a Mac Mini, fired up OpenClaw, and you built something really cool. Dave, you did a little show and tell, which was great. We made it. We said that for each episode we would all come with something that we've done over the past week. Jack, you built something that I thought was really cool. So tell us what you built. Tell us like sort of how you did it, and then like how much time it took, and why you thought this would be a cool use case. Like jump in with both feet.
Yeah, so I got 2 updates on my homework. So one was just on Claude Desktop, just, started finally messing around and playing around on Claude Desktop. I wanted to just build like a web scraper it didn't have to be a web scraper, but I wanted to aggregate a bunch of public records resources. Specifically, I'm using Baltimore City as my use case here. And so I was curious how many illegal rental properties are in Baltimore City, because Baltimore has this rental licensing requirement. So if you have a rental property, you must have a license. And
I love this idea.
my gripe with the legislation when it passed 7 years ago was that I was just like, you guys are going to tax the good guys because I'm going to comply, and then the slumlord's not going to comply, and then you're not going to do anything about it, and so you're just taxing the good guys and not punishing the bad guys. And so this is just stupid, right? Like this is having a counterproductive effect that you desired. If you would enforce this shit, then then I would be sympathetic and I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. But hey, 7 years forward, fast forward, that's exactly what happened. They haven't enforced anything. Slumlords are just still doing exactly what they want to do. And I'm getting charged, $150 a year per unit for nothing,
Is that what it
for literally
is?
nothing. Yeah,
It's
between like the
150 bucks.
rental, well, property registration's $30, and then you have to get an inspection report. You can use Section 8 inspections as a proxy, but otherwise you have to send an inspector out and do a health and safety. And then you upload then you have to pay somebody to, compile that and the lead certificates and upload them and get your license and then track that, right? So it's just another compliance thing that we have to deal with. So I was just like feeling snarky, and I was just like, hey, let's go put together a list of illegal rentals in Baltimore City. And so I pulled down the assessor database from Open Baltimore and then banged on the rental licensing website and pulled in all of the, had to figure out the architecture, but finally just in Claude Desktop, just talking to it, just talking to it the whole time. I'm just like literally pasting URLs and telling it what I want and getting closer and closer on an iterative basis to like what I want it to look like. Built me a little website that's a table of the 65,000 non-owner occupied properties, populates all the licensed rental properties, populates if the house has a vacant building notice, so it's a vacant property. And then I put another category for if you've owned it for less than 12 months, like, hey, let's just give you a pass because maybe you're still in the middle of the rehab and you're going to flip it or you're going to go get a rental license. So let's, give everybody 12 months. But then if you haven't licensed it, it's not a vacant building notice, and you've owned it for more than 12 months, then I tag you as an illegal rental. And then I keyed everybody based off of mailing address, right? And then I started labeling the organization because sometimes people have different mailing addresses or different LLCs. And so I keyed everybody together so I could like see the organization. And then Dave, you'll love this. And then I created like a bad boy score. So it's like percentage of non-compliance. So if you've got a vacant property or you've got an illegal rental, so I add up all the vacant properties you own plus all the illegal rentals you have, and that's the numerator. And the denominator is how many properties you own, right? So like for every 20 properties you own, how many of those are vacants and illegal rentals versus licensed rental properties? And so it's kind of like a bad boy score. And then you start sorting by that bad boy score and also sorting by like, total number of properties that you own. And you can essentially be like, hey, here's all the biggest slumlords. And then here's, and then we scroll down, we get to the smaller slumlords. And you can see like, dude, and so that Baltimore fraud that happened, the appraisal fraud that happened, top.
All not ready.
Sorts to the top. Like the biggest
bad boy in
non-compliant
Baltimore.
landlord. Yeah, biggest bad boy in Baltimore, Eli Gold. So like it is an excellent proxy for like, for like good landlord versus bad landlord. That's kind of like the idea behind it.
Jack, I know it was like, I love the snarkiness of the project. Like, let us in. Like, what of all of the things that Jack Bevere could have built and not seen his wife for the entire weekend, why that project, Jack? What's the use case for you there?
I don't know, man. I mean, part of it was just like, I don't know. It's like
Curiosity.
Real estate nerd porn, like just to like, because I also layered in. I also then was just like, well, I'm not done with that. So let's layer in the housing market typology so you can see the quality of the location. Let's bring in the permit data going back to 2015 because that's publicly available. And so now I can see for all of the non-owner occupied properties, how many permits have been pulled in the past 10 years and what was the total value, self-reported value of all the work that was done. I then banged on the Maryland Department of Environment website for 40 hours straight and pulled in every lead certificate. And now I have the lead cert expiration date and the inspector's name and the inspection company. And so in real time, I run this script. It'll take a day, right? It'll take basically like a day and a half for this script to refresh. And so I have it set up to run once a month. And so I've got a little I got a little tool here that is my picture of every non-owner occupied property, right? Like every investment property in the market that I care about, which is Baltimore City. And it's the aggregation of all of the available data sets in that one place. So if I have a question, right, about what's going on, who's doing what, who's good, who's bad, what kind of stuff are they buying, it's all aggregated together. The next thing I'm going to do, so I had this idea last night. I'm like, all right, now that I've aggregated all this data together, why don't I point my OpenClaw at at that aggregation and be like, hey, start creating me some articles. Like I want to, I want to write up, start analyzing this data for me, right? Because it's 65,000 properties to scroll through. It's a little bit, you can do some sorts to get some like interesting surface level stuff, but like, hey, show me the new investors in town who are growing at the fastest pace, but clearly have some operational issues because they're not in compliance on. Show me the most aggressive guys who are coming into town and don't know what they're doing. Right? Like I can answer that question, or like whatever housing policy or curiosity or market. Hey, I got a property that I got a shell that I want to go sell in this at this address. Look up all the buyers of those address of properties of similar type over the course of the past 20 months and give me the top 12 people who I should, send a text to, and give me and pull in their cell phone numbers too, because you can pull in a lot of contact information off of the rental licenses. So like it just became like, hey, I'm just going to dump all of my IP about Baltimore into this one place. And we'll use it as a diligence tool at the courthouse steps. I don't know. It's like if someone's offering us a property, or like, we can pull up the address and know everything about that person's situation. I could add mortgage data next. I'm thinking about that. But anyway, yeah, I probably
Jack,
have like 30 hours into it.
You could add like a house canary or a data tree to like give you the actual, property specs and everything. What I love, Jack, is that you start off with this grand use case and this amazing amount of intellectual property that you've of the past 20 years of experience in the market. But now that creative curiosity inside of you that goes, oh, shit, man, I'm laying in bed and I just figured out a feature that I can add to this thing. And the beauty to be able to just do it. That's to me the real unlock for this technology. So yeah, I can't wait to see what you do with that. That's
yeah. Just put the link.
By the way,
in the chat.
By the way, Dave, he showed it off just briefly, and
I want to see it.
It's really, really cool, man. Just a great dashboard of a lot of data.
Dude, so do it for Detroit, man. Do it for Detroit.
Yeah. So I wonder, the two things I would think of to kind of layer on top of it are number one, if crime statistics are accessible and you can overlay that.
I mean, it's Baltimore. I don't think we need any stats.
Well, the stats are bad, but like if it's anything like Detroit, you've got, great neighborhoods and you've got, garbage neighborhoods. So by overlaying the crime stats and possibly the Google Street View API is like 0.7 cents per image.
That's really cheap.
If you can overlay, look, this is what this neighborhood looks like, and this is the crime in this neighborhood, and here are all the unregistered rentals. So city, this is not a coincidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Look here.
And by the
Jack,
way,
are you snarky enough to start sending reports to the city?
No, I wouldn't even go to the city. I would actually go, if it were me, I would go to a newspaper, right? I would go to a newspaper and I would say, here's the statistics that I've got, right? Your name now is everywhere. And it's like, you were the one that uncovered this. No publicity is bad publicity. And then let the newspaper take care of the work for you. You don't even have to go talk to the city.
Yeah, there's a lot of snarky shit you could do with it. Give it to the paper, give it to the Sun papers, or give it to the politicians, or give it to the city and be like, hey, you're doing code enforcement really inefficiently and shittily. Here's the way to do it. Like, here's all the guys you need to go after. Anyway, yeah. I mean, it's also ironic because it's all their data. Like, I'm going to all
nothing they didn't already know
to pull this shit in and aggregate it and then like draw conclusions from it. Yeah. So they'll catch up.
What was that line from Office Space? Thumbs up their asses.
Yeah. So that was yeah. Mine's just a bunch of Python scripts and a simple index.html. So you guys are like re-architecting how these things are thinking, and I'm just like doing Python scripts, scraping websites and putting it all
really
together
awesome
in index.html.
It's a great use case, though. Fantastic use case.
I got one more incredible use case. This one blew my mind. I just figured it out this past weekend. So we lend money and sometimes guys don't pay. And so they're like, they're our bad borrowers, right? Like, and I wish these guys never got in the front door, but now that, now they owe us money because they haven't paid us back and we got a judgment against them or whatever. And you want to know what they're up to. Dude, so I went into OpenClaw, I put in what we knew, just like names, LLCs, mailing addresses, and said, hey, go, oh, and they owe us money. I want you to be a private investigator, and I want you to go scrape. I just want you to go everywhere on the internet, all public records, databases, like track these guys anywhere you possibly can, figure out known associates, run down those rabbit holes, just rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole. And I just said, just go. And then 15 minutes later, it comes back with the most amazing research report I've ever seen in my life. It was like I had a team of expensive lawyer associates working for a month on this thing, or a team of private investigators to put together this massive report. And then I read through it, and dude, I put like 8 guys into it. In 3 of the cases, it totally cracked the case. It like told us exactly what's going on, showed the conspiracy, explained the pattern of behavior. And it's the kind of thing where, like, if I had been banging away on the internet trying to research these guys and figure out where my money went, and I had a room full of whiteboards, I'd have filled up the whole room. It would have taken me a month to fill up the whole room full of whiteboards of my research. And then, like, could my brain have been smart enough to connect, that, oh yeah, last Tuesday I saw this pattern happen over here, and then it was over here on this wall too. I can't keep that shit all in my head. Dude, this thing just put it all together, like, in an amazing way.
Jack, did you give it any websites to like go look at, or did you literally just say go down rabbit holes as far as you can and find whatever you can? You didn't give it any context.
Didn't give it any proprietary database context or anything like that. And then when it came back, I said, hey, are there any unanswered questions or additional rabbit holes that you should go down? Go down them. Don't stop until you're done everything. Come back. 15 minutes later, comes back, has cracked all those, like eliminated a bunch of things that weren't correct, and then prioritized it, and then turned it into a set. And then I was like, and turn it into a set of action items for my team to go pursue, basically. And then send me an email summary and attach in a markdown file all the backup that you found and where you found this information. And it's like, dude, just forward it to the attorney, right? Like, here's all the backup for whatever filing you want to make. Like, here's all the legal research behind it. Here's what we've identified. And it's seriously, in 3 of the cases, like, completely cracked the case.
I just had to write the complaint.
Wow.
Yeah, seriously. And then write the fucking plate. I'm like, dude, I'm going to go to law school just so I can sign the bottom of the damn, filing. Like, not actually.
Right.
So anyway, that was like it.
And Jack, did you do that?
Right? Which is a very basic thing, but
do that in Claw
just
Desktop?
OpenClaw. No, just OpenClaw. That was OpenClaw.
You opened up your OpenClaw agent, and you just, I think
sent it down rabbit holes.
Sometimes I think it's the guy who opens up OpenClaw. Your agent is just inherently smarter. It's Jack Bavir. He opened up OpenClaw, and his agent is just inherently smarter.
He's just smarter than my agent.
Like, I don't think I could tell Rocky to do that. Frankly, I'm blown away.
Dude, I think you could. It was
it's just the way he types it. Simple. It's like Opus knows. All right, this guy's not fucking around.
Wait a minute, I got Bavir banging on me here. Wait a minute.
I'm gonna have to work a lot harder to impress this guy.
Well, so like, and the thing is, I looked at the token usage because it's just pounding away in there, right? Like, and I looked at the token usage, and I'm just like, I probably spent like $20-$30 per one of these reports, but it's like thousands of dollars. It's a work product I probably couldn't even pay for. Like, it's the best work product I've ever seen of this type, and I'm like, it costs like $20-$30, and it's got a real definable, concrete business use case. And I'm like, I mean, I get off on that stuff, right? Like, pure, like, this is clear ROI, clear.
Not only, Jack, wasn't on the AI call this morning that one of the guys on the call said he developed something was it taking the data that you gave to him? Who was it that was talking on the call this morning? He developed like this great use case where he can go out and find the leakage, I guess, for the folks that aren't paying. You don't remember on the call this morning, just 2 hours ago?
The leakage?
Never mind. Doesn't matter. I'm wondering if you gave the report to anybody here at Dominion and now they've taken it to the next step.
No, I just gave it to the special assets guys. Yeah.
Well, gents, we're into this thing
Jose
for an hour
was
and a half.
talking about that. Yeah, but no, he's doing his own thing. He's doing his own thing.
Separate project. Got it.
Yeah.
All right, boys. I could talk all day. I had a few more things I wanted to talk about that came out at the NVIDIA conference, but we can save that for another time. OpenClaw has obviously taken over the world. It is the fastest open source project, the fastest growing open source project since Linux. It's far eclipsed it in terms of usage. So I think we're on the right track in terms of talk points here with OpenClaw. Dave, any last comments from you? You look like Dave's wondering how he's going to leverage our conversations today, and
Well,
looks like he's already
I
doing
just,
it.
last time we each, kind of made, I want to keep the theme going if we can to say, okay, give me something you're going to build before we meet again. And so we can hold each other to it.
I'm going to go ahead, Jack.
I have mine last time was that I was going to figure out how to bring OpenClaw into a SOC 2 compliant, SOC 1.2 compliant framework. I have been working on that. I do have progress on that so far, but I do have more work to do on it. So that'll be my update for next time. I'm actively working on figuring out how to. Do you know what I realized? Here's what the at the risk of elongating things. It was when we go and we raise debt, right? Like in our lending business, like we just did a securitization. We just finished it, and part of raising that debt was a lot of the bond buyers wanted to know, like, are you SOC 1 the SOC 1 type 2, SOC 1.2 compliant? And it's like it's important for them, like it's some like sovereign wealth fund lending you money. They want to know that you've got security in place. You're not a bunch of cowboys. And so the debt requires SOC compliance, but from an innovation perspective, like this research tool, for example, like I put some names and addresses and stuff in there, and I'm like, shit, man, I should be running everyone who applies for a loan through that. For $20, I can do a deep dive on these guys. Like I should make that part of my screening process. But now I'm like, I'm intersecting customer data with OpenClaw, and that's currently not SOC compliant. So like my debt requires SOC compliant, but my equity as the owner of the company, my equity requires AI innovation. And so like I'm going to just be pounding on the conflict between SOC compliance and AI agency, an agentic AI. And we have like a SOC compliance consultant, and I'm talking with them about these issues. I'm talking with my IT company about it, and I'm just shoving everybody. I'm just a pusher, right? So like I'm like, hey, I'm not like, don't tell me no. We're gonna do both of these things at the same time, and no is not on the menu. I know it's hard, I know it's new, I know we're trailblazing here, but we must figure this shit out. So that's been part of a big chunk of the journey for me the past couple of weeks that I am also still on. So that'll be my update next time.
Dave, have you let AI, your bot, loose on your inbox,
Yep.
Outlook, or whatever it is that you use?
Yep.
So yesterday I created a technical brief that would hopefully be used by our IT guys. And all I'm asking for is for the bot to be able to read and write, but no send on my Outlook mailbox. So it can go in there, figure out like what's important, what's not, move certain things to folders, create reports on me for like, hey, you got to get back to this guy. You gave this guy a quote, he never got back to you. Like my whole idea is I want to spend as little time in Outlook as possible and see only the things in front of me that are important, right? And so I asked for access for that with our IT folks. Evidently, they're not too excited about opening up access to the mailbox for OpenClaw. But what I thought was, hey, look, I'm literally giving
Yeah, I
you a
can't imagine why.
shocking.
Yeah, but I'm so jealous of you. You've got it hooked up to all your stuff. You got it hooked up to your QuickBooks. I'm like, maybe
Yeah, I mean, so like not
I'm gonna
only that, but like
compartmentalize my
imagine
company.
what about if every loan officer had their email hooked up to what could we learn from that? How much leakage are we losing in customers that like we don't get back to or don't get back to us? Like all of those things that we could learn just by having more data being analyzed. And so I said, look, here's the compromise. I don't want this thing writing and sending emails from me. It can write one, but it cannot send. And so there's a server side um, setting in Microsoft 365 in their Open Graph that you can set this setting, and it will absolutely not allow it. I can't change it. I mean, it's server side, right? So created a massive like 15-page technical brief that hopefully someone can read and consume and make some sense out of. Made a beautiful brief, graphs, pictures, everything, and gave them all of the steps that they would need to take. Security. I even put a SOC section in there for consideration. So we'll see what they say. But that would be a real game changer to have that ability. I had it, Dave. I actually had it running with Apple scripts. It would go in and open up my email and then sort of do like a scan, and it would give me a report, but it wasn't great. And I think this would be a real unlock if we could get that done.
So maybe it would be okay if you mirrored your inbox into something like Supabase and then just worked with that database. Now, it
That's
can make,
bad. You're a bad
I mean,
man,
then now,
sir.
now it can see everything, but it doesn't have to access Microsoft to do it.
Dave, that's brilliant.
Pretty fucking good idea.
That's pretty fucking.
I didn't think it was that good money.
No, it's
I mean,
really
it's a
good,
great idea.
Dave. It's one I didn't think of.
All right,
I
so you want
mean-
to hear what I'm working on by next time we meet?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to be really excited if this works. So I've had this software. I think I mentioned it last time. I've got this software called Insightful on everybody's machine. All right, everybody has to. I don't care if you're commission based. It doesn't matter. You have to have Insightful on your computer, and it runs in the background. It takes screenshots every minute, right? And it tracks every website you visit, every program you use, how long you were in it, whether you were active or inactive. All this data. And I've collected since July 25, I've collected 7 million fragments, right? And a fragment is basically just they did this thing for this amount of time. Here's what it was. And there's a number of screenshots depending on how long it was. But what I'm going to do is actually take and finish out my where the hell is our time going dashboard. The idea is that Google has a product that's like 1,300 thousandths of a penny or something like that to OCR a screenshot. Here's a screenshot, bring all the text. Now I can use a very cheap reasoning model to assign a major and a minor category to that activity. I already know how long they spent on it. I already know what website they were on. If they were on a website that's specific to a specific record in one of our software systems, I can programmatically determine what record that was. But now I can actually see what they're doing with that record. So I'll take a midpoint screenshot of every fragment and analyze it. And then I should be able to tell in a dashboard, drill down to the person, drill down to the division, drill down to the activity. I let it invent the major and minor categories. It's got 15 major categories, and I think it's got up to 65 minor categories. It'll categorize every single thing that it can. And I already have the categorization done. And I went back through and did all of our phone calls, voicemails, and meetings. I haven't done text messages yet, but I've done the rest of those. And I'm hoping that I have a dashboard literally that tells me the cost of each minor category activity. And now I can rank them and I can decide, well, we're spending way too much time on that.
Yeah. I'm not making any money. I'm not charging enough for this. Yeah.
Yep. Actually, the idea really stems from something that Fred Lewis's sister told me. She said, look, get everybody in your company an egg timer. Have it sit next to their desk. And every time they're going to do something, right, that takes longer than 15 minutes, have them, write down what they did and put an egg timer on it and report back, how much time did you spend on it? And then, you'll aggregate this data and you'll be able to look at it and say, these are the time sucks. So this is, I think, a little bit more of a, AI approach to that, where all they have to do is just go about your business, do what you do. And we're going to analyze all these activities. And for me, cross-referencing them against our pain points from our client's perspective. Like, client is upset about this thing, customer's upset about this thing. Looks like we don't spend much time on it, or looks like we're spending way too much time over here. I can really start to get some, I think, business use data. I'm not going to say it. I'm going to admit that we'll have done anything with it. But by the next time we meet, I want accurate, down to the fragment categorization of a high percentage, let's call it 60% or higher of the fragments have at least a major category. Actually, I would say 90% should have a major category and then 60% should have a minor category.
Love it.
That's a great one.
Love it.
I love it. That really engineering, exactly what's going on in the business, right? Like, God mode for what's going on in your organization. Yeah.
Yeah. That's be a, but again, and I've explained this to people, I don't want to micromanage you from the standpoint. It's like, oh, you're goofing off. Oh, you're watching this. Oh, you're wasting time on that. That's not really, you get your job done. Cool.
Yeah. I want to, the people are good. I'm evaluating the mousetrap, not you.
Yes.
It's the mousetrap that I'm trying to analyze. Yeah.
Yep. I love that. Well, guys, the second episode, still batting 1,000 on content here. Loved it. Could talk all day with you guys about it. Next time, I will be wearing a blazer. I'm going to get something probably more a tweed with arm pads, make it look really nerdy.
Arm pads. Do you
Yeah,
get a pocket protector?
maybe, if you're lucky, I might have that. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us. Love your comments. I love getting emails from folks. Craig at thedominiongroup.com. Feel free to send them. These guys are busy, so you can just send to me. I'll make sure if you want to talk to them about anything, I'll get it over to them. But hope you enjoyed the podcast today. We'll see you on the next one.